whether my voice is clear or not. So let's wait for a couple of minutes, guys. We will start the session for today. Like we will start around 6:10, 6:15 like that. Okay. In the meanwhile, like we will try to recall what we have seen yesterday's class. So Nagireddy, for the recorded classes, you can contact our admin Sanjay once. I think he will help you. Please contact him once. Okay, I think we can start the session for now. You are able to see my screen, right? All of you. So let's try to recall what we have seen on yesterday's class. Let me open the presentation. So on last class, what we have discussed, guys, on our last class. Like first of all, we have discussed about this account creation part. Later, we have created how to create a server, right? EC2 instance. Okay. Let's try to recall the topic once. So to create an EC2 instance, how many steps we need to perform? Total 7 steps we need to perform, right? So before going to EC2, like before going to recall the yesterday's concept, what is the meaning of EC2? Elastic Compute Cloud. We all know EC2 means Elastic Compute Cloud. Okay, fine. What is the meaning of server? Which serves the needs of other computers? We can simply say that. So for that server example, which example I have shown to you yesterday? Restaurant. So from now, like remember, when you need to explain something about server, use this concept anywhere you want. You can use on our interview as well. Okay. So server, as I said, like this, servers are computers that runs the services. So this means these computers consist of the services, and these services will be served to the other computers, right? So like coming to the types of servers, we have total 4 to 5 main servers. One is web server, second one is application server, database server, proxy, and last one is your Patient server. Okay. So then what is the meaning of VM, virtual machine? A mission inside a mission, we can call it as virtual machine. Sometimes it is also called as your program, or we can call it as a what? Like we can also call it a software sometimes. Okay. So types of virtual machines are how many types? Two types. First one is your system VM. Second one is your process VM. Okay. So next, to create EC2 instances, how many steps we need to perform? 7 steps we are going to perform, right? What is your first step, guys? Choosing an AMI, Amazon Machine Image. AMI consists of what? The software configuration which required to run our server, as well as AMI ID is region specific, and we can prepare our own AMIs and we can sell our AMIs as well as on our AWS accounts. And we need to use what kind of AMIs? Free tier AMIs only we are eligible to use. So step number 1 is done. It is choosing of AMI. Step number 2 is your instance type. So that means we are going to allocate some of the CPUs as well as some of the RAM to our server which we are going to work, right? And by default, we can use T2 Micro, which consists of 1 CPU as well as 1 GB of RAM, and total instance families are 90. Okay. So third one is our configuration, like networking, as well as on which data center we are going to launch, as well as the level of permission we are going to set up for this EC2 instance. All these come under configuration part. Okay. So it will consist of your number of instances you want to give, subnets, VPCs, IAM roles, tenancy, and all other stuff. So tenancy means, I will explain one more time at the end. Just remember me, what is the tenancy? So first step is your adding of storage. So the storage means here EBS. Meaning of EBS is elastic block storage. Can we attach multiple EBS volume to single EC2 instance? Yes, we can. Max limit of a free tier EBS is 30 GB only for general purpose and magnetic only. Okay. Step number 5 is your adding of tag. Step number 6, security group. So that means the level of traffic which you want to take to the instance and which you want to give from the instance. That is called as your inbound outbound rule. So the port range lies from which range to which range? 0 to 65,535. So that means all the ports in between these ranges are going to allow the traffic, right? And these security groups are region specific and network specific. So that means if I create a security group on Northern Virginia, I am not able to see it on Mumbai. If I create a security group on Mumbai, I am not able to see in Ohio, like this. And what is your last step? Review and launch. Okay. Are we clear for today? Like, just we have recalled what we have done on yesterday's class. Okay. So these are the 7 steps. Step number 1 is choosing AMI. Step number 2 is instance type. Step number 3, configuration. Step number 4, EBS volumes. And 5 is your tags. 6, security groups, and 7 is your review and launch pattern. Okay. So now I am going to do like this. So I am going to log into my AWS console, like I have shown you, right, how to create an AWS account. Okay. So now I am going to create a new instance. So to create an instance, like if you are creating a new instance, like just go back to your dashboard, and on the top pattern, you are able to see the search box, right? So type EC2 here. Okay. Click on this EC2 once, and you are able to see this kind of dashboard. So go for the launch instance, click here. So first of all, I am going to give the name as Linux. Okay. So today we are going to start the concept of Linux. So I have given the name of Linux. And AMI, I am going to do what kind of AMI? Amazon Linux 2. So the AMI ID will going to change from one region to another region, right? This is shown in yesterday's class. So I am going to select this kind of AMI, that is Amazon Linux 2. or if you want, you can take Ubuntu as well. It completely your choice. You can take which AMI you want. Okay. So I'm going to stick with the AWS Amazon Linux AMI. Instance type. So that means T2 micro you are going to use by default, which consists of 1 CPU and 1 GB of memory for it. And key pair. Yesterday I haven't explained about key pair, right? So today I will explain the key pair concept. See, on the old console, there we are going to download the PEM file, and after we are going to convert into PPK file on the old console. But on the new console, you can directly download the PPK format. Okay. So I will show you how to directly take the PPK file. So click on this one. So enter your key pair name. So I am going to take it as evening batch or eve batch. Okay. It is asking like the type of key pair. You want RSA type of key pair. So that means private and public key pair or ED25519. So this means this kind of key pair will not be support for Windows instance. So like we will go with RSA only, and it is asking .pem or .ppk you want. You can download .pem, you can download .ppk as well. It is completely again your choice. So I am going to download .ppk for today. Tomorrow I will show you how to download the PEM and convert into PPK. So click on PPK and create a key pair. So are you seeing the key pair is here? UBatch. Okay. So I have created a new key pair now. So network settings, like I am going to select the VPC settings. I am not going to touch VPC part anymore because it is our AWS concept. Okay. We will go to AWS concept when we're done with Linux as well as DevOps tools. Next, security groups. SSH is only thing enough for us actually. If you want, you can give HTTPS and HTTP traffic. Okay. Or if you are having any pre-security groups, that is any predefined, like last time created security groups, we can select from this. Okay. So like I do have some of the security groups like launch wizard 14. So that means it is my last security group. I can create new security group or I can use the existing security groups. It is completely again my choice. Next, EBS volume. By default, it is 8 GB, but we can extend up to max 30 GB. That too only for general purpose and magnetic. So once you filled all these details, just click on launch instance. Is the instance creating? Do you have any doubts up to now, like creating instance part? No. 7-step I have shown to you and I have done it practically as well. So daily we are going to create a new instance. So daily I'm going to repeat the same concept for next 4 to 5 days like this. Okay. So for the online people, guys, are you having any doubts up to now? Like for the first time, like Pranav, hi sir, this is my first class. My question is DevOps and DevSecOps both are same. No, DevSecOps will have the security thing additional, but on DevOps we are having only Dev and Ops pattern. Clear certain. Like what is RSA? I will explain tomorrow. Like we need to download the PEM as well, right? So I will explain what is PEM, what is RSA, and what is PPK as well. So the full form of PPK is putty private key. We can share that. Okay. So the full form of PEM as well as meaning of RSA, I will explain tomorrow's class for you. So the meaning of PPK is putty private key. So PPK. Okay. What is Ubuntu? Like Ubuntu is a type of Linux flavors, Vidyashri. I will come to this part on this introduction section of Linux now. What is the use of key pair? With the help of key pair, you can directly connect your instance in a secure way. Okay. So that's the use of key pair actually is. So I will show you how to connect to instance. Like yesterday we have connected to the browser, right? Yesterday. But you can connect your browser like this. So click on this one and go to the connection part and connect. Okay. So that means your connection is going to establish to the browser part. But you can establish the same connection to your putty as well. So how to do this means copy your public IP address. Open putty. Okay, you can direct download it. Okay, I will show you how to download. So give the public IP address here Go to SSH. Okay, here you can see something called as AUTH, authorization, right? Click on this and go for the browse option. Is this my key pair, guys? So click on this one and open, and click on open again. So here you can see something called as like this dashboard. Click on just accept. Am I able to connect to my instance now? See, if we connect through the browser, the same thing is going to happen. If we connect through the putty, the same thing is going to happen. But the difference is, on real time, we are maximum going to use this putty only. Okay, you can use putty, you can use Mobexter, you can use super putty, as well as you can Windows bash as well, like Windows command prompt, right? You do have, you can use that as well, or you can use browser. Anything you can use for the connection. So this seems like quite smaller for you, right? You are unable to see it. So to change the font size, click on the white panel. Are you seeing the white panel above? Right click it. Wait a second. So place your cursor here and give the right click. Here you can go for the change settings option. Go for the appearance and the font settings. Are you able to see it? Click on the font settings and select the font and size you want. Click on OK and apply. Is the font size changed now? So it is a little bit visible to you now when compared to the previous screen. So this is the way of connecting to putty. I will show you one more time. But before going to do this, I am going to explain the concept of Linux. How many of you are familiar with Linux here? Like anything known about Linux here? How many of you? Don't anyone know Linux? Idea is Linux everki? Okay. So let me explain something about Linux. So I'm going back to my presentation part. So Linux. Sorry. Yeah, command related. So you are able to see this one, right? The screen. You know supercomputers, right? We all know. Smartphones and smartphones, don't know. Someone is like shaking like this head. Okay. So we know supercomputers as well as smartphones as well. And we know like this one, what we called electronic machines, like embedded systems. We all know, right? But are you like anyone from here EC background? Even I'm from EC. Okay, we all know about embedded systems, right? Yes. If you observe something, everything on the wall. So there are like, if you observe, like this is some R&D that we have done. So for the wall 500 supercomputers, among all of these computers are running on Linux OS. Okay. Almost all 96% of the web servers that we are using on our real-time work are running on Linux as well. And almost all like 86% of the smartphones that we are using for today are completely built up on Linux OS only. Okay. So the supercomputers are running on Linux. Okay. And web servers are running on Linux. And smartphones are running on. So if you observe a common thing, all these are electronic devices. Supercomputers, electronic devices. Servers we are going to create through these missions, right? Lapis, like there is something electronic components there we are going to embed like this. And smartphones are electronic devices. So to run these kind of devices, we need to definitely have an OS. What we need to have? So the meaning of OS is operating system. So totally we are having only 3 OS. One is Windows. We all know about Windows, right? Second one is your Linux. Third one is Mac OS. So on our course, we are going to completely to learn about this Linux. So what are the tools that you are going to learn? Kubernetes, Docker, Terraform, Ansible, Jenkins. All these are going to be learning on Linux only. Because if you observe or if you like analysis, all the real-time servers are going to work on Linux OS only. Even the setup, Jenkins setup, Ansible setup, all these are going to be on your Linux as well. So let's know something about Linux. So first of all, what is Linux? Linux is free and open source operating system. Just like Windows, iOS, and Mac OS, Linux is an operating system. So that means we are having three type of OS. One is your Windows OS, second one is Linux, and third one is Mac OS. Okay. So among all of these, Linux is completely free. Okay. Linux is completely free and it is open source as well. So that means like you can change the Linux version. So what is the source code there is for operating system of Linux? You can completely change it. To change that code, we need to have at least a good knowledge of C programming language, because Linux is completely built on C language only. Yes. So just like Windows, iOS, and Mac OS, Linux is just an OS. And platforms like Android is powered by the Linux OS. So just now we have spoken, right? Android mobile phones, smartphones, all these are powered by Linux only. And not only like smartphones, we can simply say like what are the electronic devices we are having. Majority of the part are working on Linux OS only. Okay. The reason is, first of all, it is free of cost. Are we paying anything for Linux? No. Second thing is OS is completely open source. The meaning of open source is you can change the source code of Linux operating system. We have that ability. Like once you are good at C programming language, anyone can change it like this. So let's understanding about something called as OS. Like a few of us are already familiar with OS, but for the non-technical people, it is a new thing to learn about it. So let's go from the very basic part. So the meaning of OS is, for example, let's understanding this kind of images. Like before going to this theoretical part, which is written on here, try to understand this one. For example, he is a human, right? I'm a human. He is my laptop. I have a file to open. Can I directly go and tell this laptop to open a file? It can't understand, because I can speak Telugu, Hindi, or English, whatever languages I can. But this computer is not able to understand all the languages. It is only able to understand one language, that is your binary language. So binary language consists of zeros and ones. So are we able to speak zeros and ones? It is highly impossible task. No one ever going to try that. Okay. So if I try to communicate with this computer is not able to listen me. Okay. It is not going to give the exact output what I want. But if I have OS, if I have something called as OS, then I can communicate with this computer and I can perform what are the operations I need to do. Okay. So here we don't have any OS on the scenario one. On scenario one or scenario two, I am able to communicate with this laptop by using what? OS. Okay. So the main essence of OS is it is the bridge between human and computer for communication purpose. If you want to communicate with any of the electronic device we are having, we need to definitely have at least one OS. That OS might be Windows, Mac OS, or anything. So to communicate with the system, what we need? An OS. So let's get back to this one. An operating system is a software that acts as interface between the computer and hardware components and the user. So that means the OS is nothing but the interface. So this is me. This is my computer. Here I will have something called as interface that will be my OS. Okay. So everything that I am going to communicate is to my OS only directly. Next. Computer must have at least one OS to run other programs and applications like browser, MS Office, Notepad games, etc. So that means it is saying that every computer has some specific applications, right? So I want to run that application. How to run that application? I am communicating with my OS and my OS is going to run the applications. Next, the OS help to communicate with the computer, as we all know. So remember, the main essence of OS is to communicate with the human. Like I'm the human, right? If I want to communicate with my laptop, I need to definitely have one OS. So this OS is responsible for running all the tasks on my computer. So that is the meaning of OS. Are we clear what exactly OS is now? Clear, right? Okay. Now, so when we talk about Linux, there are few of the important components of the Linux OS. Okay, we are having few of the important components. So the first component is your kernel. What is the first component? Kernel, we can simply call it as lowest level of OS. Okay. The lowest level of OS in Linux is called as your kernel. So the kernel is the core of the system and manages CPU, memory, and peripheral devices. And it is the lowest level of OS. So that means on Linux OS, kernel is the main thing that is responsible for managing the CPU, memory, and other functionalities of the laptop. And it is also called as lowest level of operating system, we can call. So component 1 is clear for us, all of us. So the kernel, I am saying one more time, kernel will manage all the CPU and memory and all other stuff for the computer. And it is the lowest level of OS for us. What are the second component? Daemons. So daemon is simply, we can say that daemon is a background service. Okay, we are having our computer, right? If you type anything, then it is going to print something, as well as parallel you are going to hear some of the sounds, right? So every background service that associated with your computer is going to take care by whom? Daemon. So daemon is responsible to manage the background services like this. Like these are the background services, printing, sounding, and scheduling, etc. that either start up during boot up or after you log into the desktop. So it will occur while we are working or while we are logging off or logging up. Like once you shut down the laptop, you will have some kind of sound, right? So the sound is coming from the daemon part. So daemon will manage all these kind of activities. Simply we can say daemon is responsible for having background services. Clear? So first one is kernel. It is the lowest level of OS. Second one is daemon. It can manage the background services. And third one is, this will be your very most important component. Okay. This will be your very most important component on the Linux. So shell is something, simply I am saying on normal words, shell is something which can take input from the user and process the data, and it will give the output. Okay. Shell will take the input and gives you the output. It is a different environment actually. Okay. So let's explain this. It is an environment which we can run our commands. So you can run your commands as well as you can run your scripts as well. We have Linux scripting, that is called as bash scripting. You can either run your commands or you can either run your scripts. Okay, but the thing is, you need to give the input. Once we give input to the shell, what we are going to get? Output from the shell. Okay, and the shell provides you with an interface of Unix system. It gathers input from you and execute the program based on that input. When a program finishes, it is displaying the program's output. Okay, like I am giving the heavy length of content for you, but don't try to remember all of this. Try to remember on single word. If someone asks kernel, it is the lowest level of OS which manages CPU as well as memory of the system. If someone asks your daemon, it is the background service. Someone asks you shell, takes the input and gives the output. Okay, we can we can execute shell commands or we can execute shell scripts as well. Okay, are the components clear for you? So what we have seen is, we have seen what exactly Linux is, and after that we have seen what exactly is OS is, and after that we have seen the components of the Linux operating system. So now we are going to discuss something about called Linux history. Okay. So we do have a vast history. Basically, like Linux is last one. Like compared to the Windows, Windows comes long back ago. Like anyone knows when Windows comes into the market? 1990, sir. Okay. Come to me with answer tomorrow. Try to do some analysis and research on Google and come to me tomorrow. I will explain you. Okay. So let's talk about something called as Linux. In 1991. So the Linux history begins on 1991. There is a guy called Linus Torvald. Okay. He is the inventor of Linux actually. He is the founder of Linux OS. Okay. In 1991, there is a guy called Linus Torvald. Actually, he is a student of university. He is studying on a university called Helsinki. Okay. On 1991, we have a student called Linus Torvald, and he is studying on University of Helsinki. At that time, this is completely happened on the Finland country. We all know Finland, right? So all these whole things happening on there only. So he thought to have a free available academic version of the Unix, started writing his code. So that means on 1991, there is a guy called Linus Torvald. At that time, Unix is very famous on the market at that time. So what he thought is, instead of paying money for the Unix, why can't I write my own OS? So he thought of writing his own OS. Like to go for the Unix, he need to pay the money. So he thought like, if I go for the Unix, I need to pay the money. But if I write my own OS, do I need to pay money for everyone? I do not need to pay money for anyone. So he started working on his own code. Next, later this project became as Linux kernel. So after like 1991, he started working on his own operating system and start writing his own code. And what exactly he started is, he named it as Linux kernel on the initial days. So the Linux kernel is completely written on C programming language. Firstly, he named it as Freaks. So actually he thought of naming Linux as Freaks. Okay, but due to some reasons, he changed his mindset and he named it as Linux again. Okay. In 1992, so that means exactly after 1 year, from 1991 to 1992, it's exactly 1 year, he released actually the first version of Linux kernel. Okay. So the first version of Linux is released on which year, guys? 1992. If you observe all the smartphones, all the electronic machines that we are using today as of now, so completely written on Linux only. Okay. So this thing we need to remember. So one more time I'm explaining. On 1991, there is a guy called Linus Torvald. He is a student from University of Helsinki from Finland. So he thought of writing his own code. Okay. So he started to work on the project. So the Linux is written on which language? C programming language. After 1 year, on 1992, he released the first version of Linux kernel and he thought of naming it into Freaks. But due to some reason, he changed his mindset and named as Linux only. Like after that, what are the supercomputers and smartphones that we are seeing as of today? Everything will be on Linux OS. And even some of the household operations like these modems, router, refrigerators, all will have same OS as like this. Are we clear? History of Linux, like how Linux origin and all this stuff. So actually this is not important and they will never ask for an interview as well. But I am telling for your knowledge purpose. Okay. So if you observe something on the very first thing, I have said, Linux is free and open source, right? Linux is completely free and open source. So the meaning of open source is anyone can write anything. Anyone can write anything. So Linux is also distributed under an open source license. Open source follow the key tenets. So that means if you want to call something as open source, then it must follow all these patterns. So the first one is the freedom to run program for any purpose. So if it is an open source, you can run any program for any purpose. Okay. Next, the freedom to study how the program works and change it to make it do what you wish. So that means if you are having a program, you can write the program, you can run the program, and you can change the program as per your requirements. For example, I have a program. I have given input as 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. So the output will be 4. We can print. But I don't want my output to be 4. I want my output to be 10. So I can change like this. I can change the pattern of it. Next, the freedom to redistribute the copies so you can help your neighbors work. So that means if you are good at C programming language, I am good at C programming language, I can modify the Linux kernel and I can give the copies to you. So that means I can change the Linux kernel as per my requirement on my system. And if it is working fine, then you can also use it. And the last one is the freedom to redistribute copies of your modified version to other, like just now I have said. So to set something as open source, we need to follow 4 things. First is you can run any program for any purpose. you can change the kernel version as per your requirement. Third one is you can redistribute the copies and you can sell those copies as well if you wish. So these are the key tenets of the open source as we can call it now. And coming to this part, as of now we have seen what is Linux, what is an OS, and after that component of the Linux, and lastly we have seen history of the Linux and what are the tenets of the open source. So now we are going to discuss something about called flavors. This is very, very important because for example, if you observe, what is the latest version of iPhone 14? Sorry, iPhone 14 is the latest version, right? So just like for this one also, we are having n number of distributions. So we can call it as models simply for your understanding purpose. But we can't tell it as models. On Linux, we are able to call it as flavors. The first flavor we are going to discuss is Ubuntu. So this Linux flavor is going to use on anywhere. So almost like 80% of the real-time works on your Ubuntu only. So this flavor is vastly used. So Ubuntu is something like it works like Mac OS and easy to use. So Ubuntu will look like Mac OS and it is easy to use. And coming to this part, right, Ubuntu, we have two mode, guys. One is graphical user interface, right? GUI. Second one is your command line interface. So that means you need to work on commands there. On GUI, you will be having your applications as well as icons to work on it. But coming for the CLI, you are not able to see any icons. All the operation will be performed by using commands only. So that is about Ubuntu. And the second one is your Linux Mint. Second one is your Linux Mint. It works like Windows and should be used by the newcomers. Like if you want to use Linux Mint, it is same as like Windows. So for the users who want to switch to Linux, it is the best choice for the beginning stage. Next, Debian. Debian is something, it is having the more stability when compared to the other flavors, but it is used by the newcomers. Like it is very flexible to use for the newcomers like this. And remember this one, Fedora, Red Hat, CentOS, all these are same. If you execute a command on Fedora, it will be able to execute on Red Hat as well as it will be able to execute on CentOS as well. So all these three are same. But Red Hat is commercial version that we need to pay for it. But Fedora and CentOS are free to use. So Fedora, let me explain about this. Fedora, if you want to use Red Hat and latest software, you can opt for Fedora. And Red Hat is for the commercial purpose, we can say that. And CentOS is, it is same like Red Hat, but if you don't want to use it trademark, you can use CentOS. And this one is OpenSUSE. It is same like Fedora, like this Fedora and OpenSUSE are same. But if you compare, the OpenSUSE is older than Fedora and it will having much stability than Fedora. Like this OpenSUSE and Fedora will be same again. But coming to the stability part, OpenSUSE is having the great stability compared to Fedora. And what is the last one here? Arch Linux. So it is not for the beginners because no one as a beginner is going to use the Arch Linux because everything you need to do manually. If I want to install some packages, everything you need to do it in a manual way. So it is not recommended for the fresh users. So we are going to work on Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora on our classes. Okay. So I am going to explain this one more time. First one is your Ubuntu. It works like Mac OS as well as easy to use. And we are having how many modes for the Ubuntu? 2 modes. First one is your graphical user interface. Second one is your command line interface. Second one is your Linux Mint. Linux Mint is same like Windows. It is flexible for the newcomers. Next, Debian. Debian means like it is having more stability and used by the new users. And CentOS, this Fedora and Red Hat are same, but Fedora is like the Red Hat latest version. Red Hat is the commercially that we need to pay for it. And CentOS is using the Red Hat without its trademark issue. Next, OpenSUSE and Fedora are still the same thing, but OpenSUSE will have stability and older than the Fedora. And Linux Arc is nothing but it is the old one. Like every package here we are going to install manually. So these are the different kind of flavors that we are going to work on your real time. But all these flavors are not required. Majority of the cases you are going to work on Ubuntu, CentOS, Fedora, Red Hat. That's it. Okay. And some rare cases, very rare cases, you are going to touch the Linux Mint like this. So and lastly, we are going to see this architecture. Okay. This architecture part is very important for you, because if you can't able to understand the architecture of Linux, then there is no point of working on Linux. Okay. So I will explain how to work on this Linux and the how architecture actually works. What are you able to see there? Just list out me. All of you. One more time. Application, shell, kernel, and hardware. And lastly, you are seeing the utilities, right? So let me explain how exactly the application, the architecture of Linux works. So first of all, let's consider a VLC media player as the best example. Okay. This is my VLC media player application. So application, if I want to open something, I need to give input. Input is taken by what? So shell will take the input and communicate with the kernel. Kernel is your lowest level of OS, right? So that means shell is directly going to connect your hardware. So once the shell will take the input from the, once the kernel take the input from the shell, this kernel is going to connect to the hardware. So hardware consists of every information. Like you are having your storage, right? So it is connected to your hardware. From the hardware, it is going to retrieve the information and giving to the kernel. So kernel will give the output to the shell, and by using application, we are able to play that song. So one more time, I'm explaining for you guys. So first of all, to use something like I'm going to play a song, I am going to connect to the application, right? So the application will connect with shell will take the input from the application. And what exactly it is going to do is it will connect to the kernel. Kernel is your lowest level of operating system, and it will directly connect to hardware. So on hardware, we are going to have everything about there. So we are going to retrieve data from the hardware and giving back to the kernel. So from the kernel, output is going to taken by shell, and shell is going to take output and give it to the application. So from the application, we are able to see the content, right? So this is exactly how the architecture works on the Linux. Are we clear? Okay. So let's do one thing. So these are the advantages of Linux. So up to now, what we have covered so far is, let me recall these things. So first of all, we have seen what exactly is Linux is, and we have covered operating system, and we have covered the components, after that history, and open source tenants, distributions, architecture, and finally we are going to see the advantages. When you compare Linux with other OS, you are having the maximum advantages. Okay, you are having n number of advantages here, but don't try to remember all of this, because no one is going to remember all these points. Okay, just try to remember at least 3 to 4 points. First one is it is free and open source. We all know this. Second point is, when compared to the Windows and Mac OS, Linux is having very less vulnerabilities. That means like we can call it as bugs. You know bugs, right? So bugs is also called as like vulnerabilities sometimes. So I'm not saying that Linux is completely safe, but if you compare with Windows and Mac OS, you are having very less vulnerabilities. Next, Linux is more stable than other OS. So if you compare like Windows operating system has failed a lot of times. You know Windows XP, the older one, and Windows Vista. Like all of these are like few of the failure models. But on Linux, you are not going to have any failure models, because it will provide the more stability when compared to the other OS. Next, it rarely hangs up or slow down. Like when you are working on Windows, sometimes if you press a key, the output is going to present for after 1 minute or 2 minutes. Okay. In the meanwhile, what we are going to do, we are going to press 10 more keys. So it will take a lot of time to get all this information. So that means on your system, you are going to put more load. So due to that load, the system is going to be hanged. But on Linux, the hang up will never comes for you. Okay, you are having very flexible to work on it. Next, Linux system provide high performance over different networks. So if you connect to any network, performance will be very high. Next, updates are much faster than other OS. This is the main thing. So for example, I will show you this one on practical way. If you observe here, like we are having some updates, right? Are we able to see here? I can simply use this command to update. So I'm copying the command from here and giving -y at the end. I will explain this command, okay? If you observe, is the updates happening very fast or slow? Faster. So if you have any updates on Linux OS, it is going to update very soon. But the same thing if you want to do on Mac OS or else Windows, it will be very slow, like this. And the next point is yours, like supports almost of all used programming languages. So you can run your Java code there, you can run your Python code there, you can run your JS there, any programming language, it is supported completely. Okay. Next, Linux provides larger community support. Like community support is the best thing we have on Linux. So there are few of the community people who work for the Linux for free of cost. Okay. Next, it is multitasking OS as it can run multiple tasks simultaneously without affecting the system speed. For example, I am having only one system. If I want to run multiple tasks on Windows, it is possible, and Mac is also possible. But once you runs on the same task on the Linux, system will not affect. But on Windows, it will affect definitely. Running multiple tasks will affect the system. But on the Linux, it is not going to affect your system speed. Okay. So these are the advantages we are having while using the Linux OS. So among them, try to remember these 4 points. First is open source and free. Second one is stability part. Third one is like updates are much faster. And fourth one is Linux community support. Okay. So these are the 4 important points we need to remember when we are talking about Linux OS. Are we clear? So let's try to recall from the starting slide what we have discussed so far on the class. So first of all, Linux. So among 500 supercomputers on the world, as well as 96% of web servers and 86% of smartphones are running on Linux. So what is the meaning of Linux? It is just an operating system like Windows and Mac OS. Okay. What is the meaning of OS, guys? Interface between human and computer. We can able to communicate with the computer by using hardware, and we can also able to run the applications, right? Next, what is the components of Linux, guys? Kernel, daemon, and shell. So the meaning of kernel is lowest level of OS, as well as manages CPU and other components of the Linux system. And what is the daemon? Background services. What is the shell? Take input from the user, gives the output. And like history, on 1991, a student called Linus Torvalds, University of Helsinki, started this project. So later he named the project as Linux kernel, and it is written on completely C programming language. Firstly, he wanted to name it as Freaks, but later he became the project as Linux. On 1992, he released the first Linux kernel under GNU. And coming to the open source, we are having 4 key tenets. Okay. First one is we can able to run program for any purpose. We can modify the Linux kernel. If we are having good C programming language, you can redistribute the copy and you can share with your friends as well. Okay. And coming to the flavors, Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Debian, Fedora, Red Hat Enterprise, CentOS, OpenSUSE. Among them, highest used flavor is Ubuntu. Okay. Next, coming to the architecture, first of all, we are going to communicate with application communicating with shell communicating with kernel, communicating with hardware. So from the hardware, we are going to get output for kernel from shell, and shell from application. And this last slide, advantages. Okay. So it is free and open source, having less vulnerabilities and more stability, and it will never hang up like other OS. And the performance also very high when we are into different networks. and updates are much faster, and it can support all the programming languages which you want to work on. And the best thing is it is having community support. Okay, and we can also do multitasking on the Linux. So are we clear on this part, guys? So entire Linux. So what are the topics that I have said on Linux? Are you having any doubts? No. But like we have just only seen the theoretical part. Like these are just some prerequisite to work on Linux. To work on Linux, we need to have something called as your commands. So everything you are going to work on Linux is completely based upon your commands only. So let me go with fee queries. Okay, 1975. Okay. What is Unix? Unix is something like familiar to Linux, but it is completely paid version. Okay. So let me go with this slide. So I will explain few of the very basic commands for today. From tomorrow onwards, we are going to completely learn about this Linux. Like I will explain one part of the Linux commands. Okay. First of all, I am going to connect to my putty. Okay. So I am going to explain few of the basic command, guys. By default, when you log into the system, you are on which user? EC2 user. So you have created EC2, right? So the default user is EC2 user. But on Linux, if you want to work on anything, you need to be a user called root user. Okay. So to change this EC2 user to root user, we need to perform a command. That command is sudo space -i. If you observe the first line and second line, what are the difference you are able to see there? First one is EC2 user to root user. Second one is IP is same. Here we are seeing dollar symbol and here we are seeing hash symbol. So this is the command to log into the root user. But we are having some alternate commands as well. Okay. How to give the alternate command? First of all, exit from here. Again, you are EC2 user. So give the command called sudo su -. Are you into the root user? Okay. So this is the root user. There is a command called pwd, that means your print working directory. Someone will call it as present working directory as well. On which directory you are now? Root directory. Okay. So this is the second way of entering into the root. First one is your sudo space -a. Second one is your sudo su -. And I am going to exit one more time from here. I am going to tell some alternate command for this. So the third command for the same purpose. It is sudo su. Don't give hyphen. Are we into root user? Okay. But only one thing different is the present working directory we are on home EC2 user. But previously we are on root user. So don't use this command. You can also give this command, but it won't go for the root directory. So always use sudo space -a for it. Are we clear? So the command to log in from EC2 user to root user is sudo -1. Second command is sudo su -. Third command is sudo su. To see on which directory we are, pwd, print working directory. Okay. So for example, let me open the commands for you. Linux commands. I will give this document, guys. Okay. So first of all, like we are going with a few commands. So uname means it will display the Linux system information. Like that means which OS you are using. Okay. If we give uname, what are the OS we are using now? OS name we are using now. Linux. Are we able to see it? So uname is the command used to see the OS name. Okay. And you can have some alternate commands. Uname -r. -r will give the kernel information. Are we able to see the kernel information there? Okay. And you can give uname -a, like just like you can do up arrow. So up arrow means it will print the previous command. Okay. Give the up arrow and give -a. Are you seeing the entire information of this guys? Linux is your OS. This will be your like a private IP address. This will be your kernel information. Okay. So all these are your complete information about the OS. So uname is going to print the Linux OS name. Uname -var kernel version. Uname -a complete information. Okay. And if you want to see the host name, like who is host for the system, like for this one. So give the command host name. Who is the host for this one, guys? Some IP address it is showing, right? This is the private IP address. But I don't want this private IP address to be here. I want host name as my name. So the command I can give is hostname ctl set. Someone is saying, okay, set -hostname. My name is Raham. Okay, I'm giving like this. If you give the same command hostname, am I able to see the Raham now? Okay. Now I want to set the hostname as Naresh IT. Tell me the command. Hostname ctl set -hostname Naresh IT. If I want to print the hostname, what is my command? Hostname. You are seeing the Naresh IT, right? Actually, here I am seeing my IP address. But on real time, you are never going to see your IP address here. You are going to make visible your hostname here. How to do that? We can simply give the command call sudo space -i. Are we able to see Naresh IT now? So this is the like once you set your host name, you are going to give like this. Okay. So when compared to previous line and this line, you are not able to see the IP address. But I want to see my IP address now. So the command is same host name and give -i. Am I able to see my IP address now? So like this. So host name is the command to see the host name. And if you want to change the host name, what is the command? Hostname ctl set -hostname and the name you want to set. If you want to log into your host name, what will be the command? Sudo space -i. And the command to see the IP address, hostname space -i. Like we have also some other alternatives. You can give ifconfig. Are you able to see the IP address now? You can use IP addr. Are we able to see now? So these are some of the alternate commands. You can give IP address show as well. Like we have some n number of commands to see the IP address. Hostname -i, ifconfig and IP space addr. Addr. So these are the commands used to see the what? IP address. Okay. So the next command will be last reboot. Okay. So it will show the reboot history. So if you give the command called last reboot, so I'm clearing the screen. To clear the screen, we have a command called clear. Okay. So the screen will be completely cleared. So I am going to give the last reboot command. So it will show me the history, like when is the last reboot happened actually. Okay. Next. Date. So this date command is used to see the date of today's. If you give the command date, today is Thursday, October 13, and time is UTC time zone. Like this is not our Indian time zone. It is UTC time zone. And the year is 2022. If I want to see the calendar of this year, so give the command as cal. This is October, right? Are we able to see the calendar of October? So now if I want to see the December calendar of 2022, so you need to do the command like this cal. Month of December is 12th and the year. Are we able to see the December 2022 calendar? If I want to see the April calendar of 1945, what will be the command? Cal 04 1945. Am I able to see the April 1945 calendar? So this is exactly how the calendar works. Okay. Next, if you want to see who log into the system, we can do it on two ways. You can give the command like I am going to clear the screen. Previously, which command we have used to clear the screen? CLEAR. But now I am going to give a shortcut called Control L. If you give Control L, that means your screen is going to be cleared. Okay. So now I am going to give a command like this W. So that means who log into my system. I have logged EC2 user couple of times, right? So it is showing that this EC2 user login from this like DNS name, and the login time is on this time, particular time, like this. You can also do this on same by using WHO. The same output or different? Output is same, but the format is different format, right? Here EC2, here EC2. As well as here there is no from login and idle time, but here we are not able to see this one. So who W is the command to see the who logged into the system. As well as the alternate for W is who command. There is a command called who am I. Okay, so that means who am I. And currently which user we are now? Root user, right? Is it printed root? So these are the some of the commands we need to like remember for the system commands. So all that now I have explained is some of the system commands. Okay. If you want to see the list of history, what are the commands we have performed up to now is give the command as history. Are we able to see the history now? So these are the few of the commands we have given from the starting to up to now. Total 17 commands, and with the history 18 commands. So one more time I'm explaining all of you from here. So uname is the command. It will display the OS information. Uname-r kernel. Uname-a total Linux information we are using. And uptime is used to display the how the system is like up and at what time. Have we executed this command? No, right? Okay. So uptime. So that means from how much time the system is running. So I have created my EC2 instance long back, like 49 minutes ago since. So from then, like couple of users log in, and the load average is 0 for all the components like this. Next, host name. What is the use of host name? To display the host name. And if I want to set a new host name, what is the command? Hostname -ctl. Hostname ctl set hyphen hostname and the hostname which I want to give. Okay, and hostname I means it will display the IP address. And alternate comments we are having alternate comments. If config and IP space addr. You can also give IP address show as well. We have that flexibility as well. Okay, last reboot. It will show the reboot history, and the date command is used to display the date. And there is a command called time date ctl. Okay, it will say the like time zones of which we are using. But we never use this command on real time. Just ignore this one. Okay. Next one. Cal is used for what? Print the calendar. If you want to print the calendar of January 2013, what is the syntax? Cal 01/2021. And W is used for who logged into. Alternate command is who am I not? It is who. Actually, who am I is written here. Okay. Alternate command is who. And who am I stands for who is the current user, who logged in. And lastly, there is a command called man. For example, if there is a command hostname, right? You don't know how to use the hostname command. Okay. If you give man hostname, it will list out the manual of the hostname. Okay. So man is something called as manual. You can simply call it as. If you have a command, if you don't know how to use that command, just give man and command name. It will print the manual how to use that command. Clear? So if you want to exit, like press Q, it will be exited. So these are few of the basic commands we have used today. Are we clear? Do we have any doubts? Offline people? No? So first of all, I will go with the online people and come back to you. Okay? Just please maintain like silence for a few minutes. So for the online people, guys, are you having any doubts? Like I will share the PDF, guys. Don't worry about it. Like how to reset to IP instead of hostname. Like you can directly give the same hostname CTL, set-hostname and IP address you want. Okay, it will be changed. How we entered into Linux OS? We have selected AMI, right? So that AMI we have used the Linux AMI. So from there we are having Linux AMI. I hope it is clear for you, Deepika. Sir, if I have to attend offline, I should bring laptop. Shivani, there is no need of bringing laptop. You can directly come to offline. Like compared to online, guys, offline will have a large flexibility of communicating as well as understanding the concepts in a great way. Like I will suggest you to come offline if it is possible for you. Sir, can I get a textbook of step by step? Like we are not providing the textbook. If you want, you can buy the recordings, and PDFs are completely free for the enrolled guys. Once you are enrolled, right, you can get all the PDFs. Okay. Sir, clear, nice, clear explanation. Thanks, Raja Babu. Sir, how to install Putty? Okay, I will tell at the end. So first of all, before going to the doubts, let me show you how to install this Putty. So go to your browser, any of your browser. Okay, just type Putty download. Okay, you are able to see this one, right? Click on here. You are able to direct to this kind of terminal. Okay, or you can click on this first link as well. So always use the first link. Okay, I will paste this link on your chat as well. So here there is something option called download Putty. Click on here. Select 64-bit into ARM. This one. So you are able to download this Putty now. Okay. So once your Putty is downloaded, like I will send this link for you. Copy link address. Guys, I am pasting over chat. Use from this. So once your Putty is downloaded, open this one. Click on open. I do have my Putty already. Like once you open that, just click on configure and install. Give next options completely. It will be directly installed. Okay. Or if you're having any like doubts or queries, you can communicate with me tomorrow. I will install on your laptop. So still any doubts? Like I think 86, I think so. Let me go with this one. Open when it's done. Yeah, like here mistakenly I have clicked on this ARM. Just go for this one, 86-bit. Copy link address, and I am going to provide this one on the chat. Guys, use the second link. Okay. So once this is done, click on this link and open. Like clear, I have opened it one. Click on next. Again, like here I have already my old one, right? So it is asking me to repair. I don't want it. Continuously click on next. It will be directly installed for you. Okay. If you are having any doubts, I will show it on class for tomorrow. So still any doubts for the online people? Okay. Sir, are these comments are same for RHEL? Yes, definitely you can use the same comments on RHEL, Red Hat as well. Okay. How the EC2 username came into Putty login? It is the default name, guys. Like Tushar, it will be default name while you are logged into your system. Okay, what is the meaning of host name? Host name is something like on which machine you are working actually. Okay. So after this DevOps, if I can learn Azure, what is the scope of jobs are? Like I will prefer AWS instead of Azure. Sir, can you please tell me the difference of command prompt in your local system and Linux commands? So see, Linux is different environment, guys, but command prompt you are like Windows one, right? So these both are different. Command prompt is working on your Windows OS, but Linux is separately a different OS, right? Like this. So the commands will vary. Like what are the commands you are using on Linux and what are the commands you are using on Windows? There are some similarities, but all commands will not going to work there. I hope it is clear for you, Dasari Suresh. Is this course useful to get job? Yes, definitely. Can I buy the recordings at later point also? Yes, definitely. Amupta. Okay. What is the difference between like ARM and 86? Like 86 is your process architecture, guys. Like you are having 86-bit, right? So that is something your hardware related thing. So today only I have joined to the demo class. How many sessions completed till now? Like this is our fourth session, guys. If you want the previous session, just please contact our admin. He will provide the previous sessions links. Sir, may I know the exact location of offline class? You can contact our admin Sanjay. He will ping you. Sir, how to these comments? Like these comments will be on your Google Drive. So once your enrollment is done, right? We will be going to create the Google Classroom for you. So what are the comments I'm going to explain daily? You will be getting through Google Classroom. Okay. Yes, your explanation. Yes, definitely. We are going to cover real-time projects as well on like majority of the tools. Sir, we can show working experience on resume. Yes, definitely. Like you can put some experience as well once you are completely into the course. So what is the difference between your coaching and other instructors? So for that purpose, I need to contact other instructor as well because I know who is giving coaching there. So I will go to them and I will talk to them and I'll get back to you. Okay. So next, sir, which one should we prefer first, DevOps or AWS? So obviously, if you don't know anything also, we can start DevOps because on the DevOps pattern, we are guys, a minute slow. Okay. So you can prefer DevOps as well because here on DevOps, we are going to cover AWS part as well. So you can take this course. The name is Galaxy. Sir, could you please tell me specific job questions? So for the job questions, Azim, you can contact our admin once. He will let you know. Sir, which is easy and best and more salary, AWS or Azure? Definitely it is your AWS only. Like it depends upon the company client, guys. We cannot follow blindly. Some company will offer good package. Some company will offer bad package for the same experience. So it depends upon the company that you are going to choose. Sir, when we are the actual class starting, actually these are the actual class only. Okay, we are not going to do anything silly stuff here. So a couple of days ago, our class started. So all this will be your practical part only. Sir, is laptop mandatory? Sorry. Okay, like if you are having good amount, like if you are like a businessman or something, go for the Mac OS. It is good one really. Or if you have less money, you can go for the Windows as well. But make sure that i5 is better for everyone. Okay, i7 is not required for now. You can go with i5 as well. But if you are having more money, Imran, you can go for Mac OS as well. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. For what? I think for my jokes as well. Okay, sir, I am from non-IT background. So today I have joined. I am requesting you to explain the classes a little bit slow. Pawan, yeah, it is completely fine. But what I suggest is class is going a bit slow only. Like I'm not going to rush anywhere. But the thing is, it is your first class, right? I mean, I think so. If we compare the previous classes, what is the topic that I'm telling is today is completely fine. Okay, just recall the previous classes and the class will be on slow manner only. Best course to get the job. Nice question. It depends upon your skill. If you learn full stack, there are a lot of jobs. If you learn data science, there are a lot of jobs. If you learn DevOps also, there is a lot of jobs. Okay. So it all depends upon how much hard work you are going to put. Okay. Someone will say that if I learn full stack, I will get 10 LP. Yes, of course. You will get 10 LP. But it completely depends upon your client, guys. I will explain you a thing. There is a company called Juniper. Have anyone heard about it? Juniper Networks, the Bangalore-based company. It is like MNC on Hyderabad. I don't think so. We have a branch here, but on Bangalore we do have. The fresher package of a DevOps engineer is 12 LPA there for a fresher they are offering. But whereas on TCS they are offering 3.5. Even the fresher, he is DevOps engineer. He is also DevOps engineer. But the company you are going to change and the company that you are going to choose is mandatory. So remember one more thing, all the things is based upon your experience as well as your knowledge and company. Okay. If you want to get good package, just we need to work hard, we need to upskill and we need to get the best company to work on. That's it simply. Next, and I have a 5 years of unemployment gap. Like you are not able to fill this 5 years of unemployment, but you can fill up to like 2 to 3 years if you work hard. Sir, coding required. No, Raja Babu, we don't require any coding for this course. How many project will you cover? So for tool to tool, we are having 7 tools. Every tool you are going to perform assignment. So 7 assignments, daily tasks. So you will get at least 20 tasks. I think so. And for the projects, you will get up to 3 to 4 projects for every tool. Sir, I had Windows OS continue class. Like you don't need to switch Linux. You can completely create AWS EC2 and you can work on it. Okay. Need not to install any Linux OS, guys. Sir, can we enroll free Linux course? Yeah, definitely. Like once you are enrolled for this DevOps course, guys, Linux is completely free of cost for you. Like we are also having like Linux course on another batch. You can join there. Sir, starting package of DevOps. It depends on the company. Just now I tell you. Sir, what about US decision? It will impact the recruitment after completion of AWS and DevOps course. It depends upon your skill. If you are really skilled enough, no one is going to remove from the company, right? Sir, your teaching make easy to understand. Yeah, thanks, Azim. Code duration will be like 2 months with Yashri. Will you explain shell script? Yeah, definitely we are going to cover the shell script as well as a part of our course. Like the better thing is get PDF from your admin. I have shared you the PDF. Okay. Just please get the PDF and like try to compare like what we are covering. Okay. So I hope for the online people, today's class is really interesting for you. So how about today's class? Is it able to understand clearly or do you have any confusions? You can respond through chat, guys. Okay. Muhammad Baig. What if I miss the class, not join with 8,000? You need to buy the recordings because recordings is separate having like 8,000 for it. So you need to buy the recordings for it. Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks everyone for responding. Yeah, for like Leonard, some new stuff, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, comments like I am going to explain these comments one more time. Don't think like we are going to have only one time. What are the concepts you are going to get right? I am going to explain 2 times. Yesterday we have covered EC2. Today also I explained, right? So today we have covered some comments. I am going to recall the same comments tomorrow. So each thing you are going to get couple of times. Okay. But the fees you are going to pay is single time. Okay. If anyone is like having kind heart, you can pay double time fees as well. It will be helpful for me. Okay. Okay, guys. Thanks for joining today.